on the outside every time, and every time, it's like he's seeing the play for the first time and has no idea that my responsibility, regardless of who, what the play ends up being, who gets the ball here, is outside contain on Tavon Austin. Every time Tavon Austin's just running right around him, Robinson's over pursuing to Gurley when that's not even his play to be making or his responsibility to worry about. Just really stupid, unacceptable, juvenile football mistakes. So again, just still disappointed in Robeson as well. Playing very similar to Greenway, doesn't have it physically, is inexplicably, making mistakes mentally, and it's probably because they're both trying to overcompensate. Like they're over pursuing and over reading, and trying to react too quickly to what they think is going to happen because they don't have the physical tools to get there and make the plays in normal time anymore. So they gotta be ahead of it. I don't know. That's one theory. Everson Griffin, little unimpactful and missing in action the last couple weeks. He did have 2 pluses to 1 minus in this week, but I expect him to be involved in more, period. Linval Joseph, my God. He was off the charts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 freaking pluses to like 3, 4 minuses, and those are really picky minuses, by the way. He was your NFC Defensive Player of the Week, marking the first time that a Vikings defensive tackle has been Player of the Week since Kevin Williams did it in 2004. Linval, start punching your ticket to the Pro Bowl. No question he's going. Johnson filling in again for the injured Sharif Floyd at the other defensive tackle position. 3 pluses to 2 minuses. Playing fairly well. Ellis, whoever this number 72 I think it is, Ellis guy that we got, coming in now for the substitute defensive tackle. He's awful. Nothing but minuses. He stunk. Secondary, Rhodes 2 pluses to 1 minus. Great play in the end zone that was almost an interception. Newman 4 minuses, no pluses, and now out with an injury. Thank God. Hallelujah. The moment I've been begging for since after the bye week. Because Trey Waynes showed me enough by that Week 4 game against Denver, and Terrence Newman had shown me enough by that time against all the other teams that Newman's terrible. He's a liability. He's had a bad season. We've overcome it for the most part, but he has not had a good season at all. He's had a flat-out bad season. He is flat-out bad. I'm telling you. And I'm right. Just trust me, okay? Just freaking trust me. And Terrence Newman is worthless at this point. Veteran depth, that's about it. You can't have him as a starting outside corner. He is a huge liability. Just getting burnt. Play again. He went out with an injury. He's out for a couple weeks now. Thank goodness. Trey Waynes will be starting opposite Xavier Rhodes next week, or this coming week, I should say, in Oakland. And that is great. Trey Waynes continues to put great stuff on film every opportunity he gets. 2 pluses to no minuses last week, which is way better than Newman's 4 minuses to no pluses. We also had Captain Munnerlyn again in the nickel, just having a phenomenal year at that nickelback. 3 pluses to 1 minus. Harrison Smith again, not playing up to his level, his standard. Only 1 plus to 4 minuses on my scorecard. And crazy, even crazier, Andrew Sendejo actually had a pretty good game. Like I would straight up qualify Sendejo's game as a good game. 3 pluses to 1 minus. 1 mistake is all I found Sendejo make the whole game. That's remarkable. So way to go, Sendejo. Proud of you. Keep it up. And Harrison needs to stop doing what Greenway and Robeson are doing and constantly get yourself out of position. You're a safety. Sit there, read the play, and keep reading the play and position yourself accordingly, but you don't just get to 1-2 duck your head and run all the time, okay? Sometimes you gotta watch more stuff unfold. Let's see, and then we had Blair Walsh playing a perfect game. He is no longer a concern whatsoever. We had Locke, the punter, on and off. First half was decent, second half was tough. I believe the wind had a big deal to do with that. Anyone watching that game knows the wind had a huge impact on that game. Refs were terrible for the most part in the game. And then let's see, on offense, Zimmer called an okay game, and Norv called a fairly good game. Now, as far as Teddy's performance goes, he was kicking butt. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 6 consecutive pluses here on my scorecard until he went out with the injury. Now, before he got on that streak, he was very inconsistent. And him and Xavier Rhodes were actually the inspirations for my midway report rankings, which I'm going to get to here momentarily. But so Teddy played average, played decent, not good, definitely not great, but not overly terrible, not poor, and definitely not terrible. Offensive line, just tons of pluses. Tons of pluses for the offensive line as a unit, only 1 minus for them throughout the entire game as a unit. And then individually, Khalil had only 1 minus. Berger had only 1 minus, but he did have 2 penalties as well, which are not included. Harris had 2 minuses, and that was it. Clemmings, a perfect game, no minuses, 2 pluses. Harris still had 2 pluses as well. Berger had 2 pluses, and freaking Fusco, which I say the uncensored version every week. That's like my catchphrase. Every time I'm rewinding the tape, it's like, what happened there? Why didn't that work? If I just asked that question, I could just go, oh, it was Fusco messing up. And again, every week, this last week was no different. Fusco, your worst offensive lineman on the Minnesota Vikings, by far. And that has been, he is a perfect, he's a perfect 8 for 8 now in that regards. That Fusco has been the worst offensive lineman, post-film study, every single week, all 8 Vikings games this year. He finishes with 4 minuses and 1 plus, 1 stinking play where he individually went above and beyond the call of duty. But like I said, the offensive line that's not to say that Fusco wasn't good within, the system of the entire offensive line. As I mentioned, the offensive line is just almost nothing. It's a dang near 20 pluses here on my sheet and 1 minus. So the offensive line as a whole, as a unit, played extremely well this last week. I would say by far the offensive line's best overall run blocking and pass blocking performance of the entire season. And it comes against one of the top 5 defenses in the entire league, and a defense that is primarily successful and built on their domination with their front 4, their 2 defensive ends, their defensive tackles, and their linebacking crew. The unsung hero, Gruden Grinder, this is really who should get, like I said, the unsung hero, the balls deep unsung hero of the Vikings game this last week was the offensive line as a unit. He said unit. But so yeah, you know that. Now the special teams, the special teams were bad against the Rams this last week. That has not been the norm here this season, but it has been an inconsistency and an up and down. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about kicker Blair Walsh, but I'm talking about our kick return units and our kick coverage units when I say that. So it would be nice to see that improve. Coming in for injured Teddy Hill, Teddy Bridgewater got injured in the 4th quarter, sliding. Dude crushed him in the face, knocked him out cold. It was one of the ugliest things we'd ever seen. The hit, as it's called here in Minnesota. So Sean Hill came in for him, wasn't really asked to do a whole lot, and that was smart and fairly effective. He didn't play particularly poorly, but he didn't play particularly well. However, anytime a quarterback is coming in cold, has no practice reps, you really try to reserve judgment. So I will not, get too carried away, either positive or negative, for Sean Hill until he has had a week to practice and then play the game, and then I'll let you know where he's at as a quarterback and what I think about him. But it is looking as though we won't have to worry about that this week, hopefully, at least, knock on wood. Teddy Bridgewater passed his first concussion test on Monday already, I believe it was. I'm sure he will undergo further observing and testing throughout the week, but at least all signs so far are good and encouraging that he can and will play. If he doesn't, though, however, Sean Hill is one of the best backup quarterbacks you could have in the NFL, and I have confidence with him given proper prep time. So finishing out our grades here for the Vikes, wrapping up the Purple Vein, getting league-wide. See, who do we got yet? Well, we got the tight ends. Red Ellison, pretty non-existent. Pruitt, fairly non-existent. Kyle Rudolph actually having a great game. Both run blocking and pass blocking. I have been very impressed the last 2 weeks, as a matter of fact, in Kyle Rudolph's run blocking ability. He has gotten really good at it, or at least really consistent at it. And he also showed up in the passing game as well. 5 pluses, no minuses. Kyle Rudolph, an unsung hero on that offense, in addition to the offensive line. Then we had wide receivers, Stephon Diggs, another great game, no minuses anywhere. Although, did he draw a pen? Did he have a penalty on him? He had a bogus penalty called on him. That freaking pass interference penalty they called on him was bogus. But yeah, so he had a good game. Mike Wallace, although he is not being a hugely impactful offensive player, he is continuing to have good games where he doesn't put minuses or mistakes or errors on the film. It's not on him. Let's see, Charles Johnson, 1 plus, no minuses. Jarius Wright, a plus and a minus. So maybe a little more impact from Wallace would be nice, or CJ or Wright, when called upon. But for the most part, acceptable performances from the wide receivers. And then finally, running back Zach Line, fullback Zach Line, 1 plus, no minus. Jerick McKinnon, 1 plus, no minus. Asiata, 1 plus, no minus. And AP overall had a very, very good game, only with, 4 minuses. And I know at least 2 of them were fumbling, hanging on to the ball issues, which seemed to be his only issue ever. Like, if he can just hang on to the ball, he is definitely the best running back in football still. But so it's going to be interesting. There's your Purple Vein recap, your Purple Vein preview for this week against Oakland. I got the great rookie receiver matchup, Amari Cooper for the Raiders versus Stephon Diggs of the Vikings. Really, this game is going to come down to health on part of the Minnesota Vikings. If the Vikings can field a fairly healthy, I'm not going to say completely healthy, but a fairly healthy, where you're only missing 1 or 2 key guys, if they can field a fairly healthy team, they will beat the Oakland Raiders. But if they're missing, a starting middle linebacker and a starting defensive tackle and a starting corner, but that's actually going to be an improvement, so we'll forget that. But and then also possibly missing starting quarterback, that might be a little too much to overcome all in one game. So keep an eye on the injury report. That will be your secret, your key to how this game plays out. Vikings at Oakland this week. Pretty sure that is a 3 o'clock game since it's in Oakland. Yep, 3:05 kickoff on Fox. All right, getting to last week's league-wide results in the NFL. Rare week on my pick'ems. As you know, I pick the games here every week, and I both acknowledge the spread and make a choice for that, as well as just picking the straight-up winners and losers. I am notoriously very good in picking winners and losers. I'm notoriously very bad in picking the spread outcomes. This last week was a rare exception of the 13 games. Yes, there was only 13 games played last week. Of the 13 games played, I only picked the winners correctly in 6 of those 13. So a rare under 500, less than half for me. However, I picked 7 of the 13 correctly in the spread, so an almost completely unheard of, better than 500 performance by me there. But so anyway, last week on Thursday we had the Bengals at home easily beat the Cleveland Browns 31-10 to remain undefeated. Then on Sunday, we had the Dolphins losing at the Buffalo Bills 17-33.